like the breeze, country road, sing.
John Denver was RCA's star for 25 years. After that, they let him go like he wasn't important. His ex-wives had already told everyone about his bad anger and chainsaw rampages. He lost his license to fly even because he drank too much. In 1997, he was no longer allowed to fly by law, but he kept going up anyway. There was a deadly flaw in the experimental plane that killed him. When the police finally put it all together, they found something worse. The crash could have been avoided. There were lots of warning signs, but no one paid attention. You will be shocked by what really happened that day. His real name is Henry John Deutschendorf, Jr. He was born on December 31st, 1943. His family liked to fly, and he was born in Roswell, New Mexico. He had a famous father named Captain Henry Dutch Deutschendorf, Sr., who flew the B-58 Hustler bomber and set 3 speed marks. Dutch was a hero in the service, and the Air Force even put him in their Hall of Fame. Life wasn't easy for young John, though. As a child in the service, I had to move around a lot. He moved around a lot and never stayed in one place long enough to make real friends. Just as he was getting used to his new home, it was time to pack up and leave again. He felt alone and like he didn't belong anywhere because of this. He would always feel like he didn't have a real home. The gift John's grandmother gave him when he was 11 years old and lived in Tucson, Arizona. It was an old Gibson guitar that was made in 1910, which is over 100 years ago. That guitar became a steady and real thing for a boy who had felt like he was moving around a lot. He could say things through music that he couldn't say with words. The sound of its strings made him feel better. He also joined the Tucson, Arizona Boys Chorus and learned how to harmonize and act on stage there. Being in this well-known group made him feel like he belonged in a way that school never could. Folk songs were already his thing by the time he was in high school. Music was more than just a fun thing to do. It helped him understand his life. His dad was very strict, and things between them were often tense. He thought his son would do well in everything. John was kinder, and he wanted to write songs. They did, however, both love flying very much. They finally became close when John became a pilot himself. A way for them to bond was to fly together, even though it was dangerous. John would think about that risk for a long time, especially after the plane crash that killed him in 1997. That link stayed with him, though, and it showed up in his songs about freedom and the sky. John went to Texas Tech University after high school to study design, but he wasn't really interested in drawing plans. He had a strong desire to make music, so he quit school and went to Los Angeles. He chose to change his last name around this time. He named it Denver, after the state's capital, because the mountains and rivers there inspired him. It felt like a new start. He had a big break in 1965. He was chosen as the lead singer for the Chad Mitchell Trio out of 250 singers who tried out. This was his first big chance in the music business. He got to perform for new groups of people all over the country, and it helped him learn and grow. He was in the group for 2 years and helped them make 3 records. On stage, he learned how to sing with ease. He worked on writing his own songs when he wasn't on stage. It was hard to tour, but John took it all in. He was slowly getting his voice back. In this time, Leaving on a Jet Plane was one of his most well-known songs. The song was sung in 1967 by Peter, Paul, and Mary. It became the #1 song on the Billboard charts in 1969. All of a sudden, everyone was singing his words. This success showed that his songs were important, even though he wasn't a big single star yet. John turned around and left when the Mitchell Trio was over. On his own, he was already going up the pop lists. By the beginning of the 1970s, he was getting hits all the time. It wasn't often that easy to go from being in a group to being a solo star. John made it look easy, though. When Poems, Prayers, and Promises came out in 1971, It was the big break for John Denver's career. What a great song! Take Me Home, Country Roads almost didn't become the anthem we all know and love. Early copies had trouble with the sound, and for a moment it looked like the song might not work. While Jerry Weintraub was Denver's new boss, they had other ideas. He worked hard to get the song played on radio stations, beginning in Denver, Colorado. When it came out on April 12, 1971, it didn't do very well for a while. It got to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 by August 28th. It became a gold record that same month after selling over 1 million copies. It kept going strong over the years. More than 1.5 million digital copies were sold in the U.S. by 2017. In fact, it had an effect on the whole state of West Virginia, which made it their official state song in 2014. Denver made Rocky Mountain High the next year in 1972. It was his 6th record and the first to make it to the U.S. Top 10. It came out in September of that year. It got as high as number 4 on the Billboard 200. The title song was one of Denver's most well-known songs and made it to the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 in 1973. On the end-of-year chart, it was number 29, and still loved by people who like being outside. There is something even more special about the cover, because it was shot at Slaughterhouse Falls in Aspen, Colorado. After many years, Rocky Mountain High was made one of Colorado's 2 official state songs in 2007. Between 1974 and 1975, John Denver had his best years. He had 4 number 1 songs on the Billboard Hot 100 in just 18 months. In March 1974, Sunshine on My Shoulders was the number 1 song. In July 1974, Annie's Song was the number 1 song. A song called Thank God I'm a Country Boy topped the charts in May 1975. I'm Sorry came in second in September 1975. His wide range of skills was shown in these hits. Some, like Sunshine on My Shoulders, were kind and positive. Some, like Thank God I'm a Country Boy, had a lot of energy. Annie's Song, which he wrote for his wife in just 10 minutes, became a famous wedding song. At this point, Denver could be heard on the radio, seen on TV, and heard in millions of living rooms. Denver also put out 3 songs that all went to number 1 during this time. In 1973, John Denver's Greatest Hits was such a hit that it beat Elvis Presley as RCA Records' best-selling record of all time. Back Home Again came out in 1974 and sold 3 million copies in the U.S. When Windsong came out in 1975, it sold 2 million copies. These 3 records proved beyond a doubt that Denver was a real star. Denver had written about 300 songs by the end of his career. He wrote around 200 of them himself. 12 gold albums and 4 platinum albums were given to him so far. More than 33 million units were sold around the world. In the 1970s, that made him one of the most popular singer-songwriters. John Denver's move into Hollywood was both a surprise and a success. In 1977, he was in the hit movie Oh God with comedy great George Burns. Denver had never been on stage before, but his earnestness and easygoing charm made people like him. The movie, directed by Carl Reiner and based on a book by Avery Corman, was about a normal supermarket manager who was picked by God to share a word from God. Denver gave a comfortable performance that made it easy to believe in his role. It was a huge hit, making more than $51 million in the U.S. alone. The script was even nominated for an Oscar. While he didn't show up in the sequels, Denver's first part proved that he could do more than just sing. It also made him stand out as a musician who could easily transition into acting. Denver made a style that people really liked too. In the 1970s, he was known for his long blonde hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and Western shirts with embroidery. Ann Zapp designed these shirts. Denver met her at an art show in Aspen. His gentle, down-to-earth personality went well with her bright, handmade patterns. After a while, stars like Willie Nelson and Bonnie Raitt would also wear her clothes. Denver had a friendly, warm look that was easy to spot. At the time, it stood for the simple, emotional spirit of folk and country music. It was very different from the louder styles of other artists. He also won over people outside of the U.S., even though some critics weren't sure he could. Jerry Weintraub, his manager, thought it was important for Denver to get in touch with people all over the world. Even though some people had doubts, Weintraub set up a number of TV specials for people in Britain. Weintraub said that Denver would become famous no matter what, so they would go straight to the people. The plan worked out great. People in Britain loved Denver's warm, friendly style, and his clear voice won him loyal fans all over Europe. The specials proved that TV was a great way to get new acts known in other countries, and they helped Denver become famous all over the world. Like Colorado, Denver had strong ties to the state. He loved the state's scenery and way of life after moving to Aspen. He was named Colorado's Poet Laureate in 1974. He had released Rocky Mountain High 2 years before. It was a song that made you feel like you were standing by a blue mountain lake and enjoying the quiet forest. The song was sort of like a state theme for Colorado, and was finally made one of the country's 2 national songs in 2007. People in the area felt like Denver had a real link to the area. In 2014, officials in West Virginia made his song "Take Me Home, Country Roads" one of their state songs. This shows how vividly his music painted pictures of American places. During the 1970s and 1980s, Denver was also a television star. An Evening with John Denver, his show from 1975, even got a Primetime Emmy Award. It was an honor to be in the same group as some of the best artists at the time. Also, Denver sang his hits, told stories, and performed with friends on a lot of other TV shows. People all over the world and in America could hear his music in their living rooms thanks to these shows. He was one of the most popular artists of his time because every show felt personal and from the heart. John Denver did a lot more than just sing. He spoke in front of the U.S. Senate in 1985. Parents wanted records that they thought were too racy to have warning labels on them. Denver spoke out, even though he was known for making soft music. He told them that someone had taken down his song Rocky Mountain High because they thought it was about drugs. It wasn't true. Denver stood up for free speech while staying calm and strong. A lot of people thought that someone like him would back the warning signs, but he didn't. That moment changed everything about the argument. The effect is still felt in the music world today. Denver was the first American singer to tour the Soviet Union in more than 10 years that same year. It was tense during the Cold War. There were a lot of problems between the two countries. Denver chose to do a different thing. He did 11 shows all over the USSR. The trip was more than just fun. It brought people from different countries together. In Moscow, Leningrad, and Tallinn, people gave him big hugs. His message of peace was clear to everyone, even those who didn't speak his language. Denver sang about things that were hard for them and his own dreams. It made him want to write a new song called "Let Us Begin," about having peace instead of war. His well-known live album, Live in the USSR, was made from recordings made on this trip. Denver went back to the Soviet Union in 1987 after the Chernobyl accident. Because of the accident, 92,000 people had to leave their homes. Thousands of people could get sick. Denver sang at a Moscow support show. Just selling tickets brought in about $140,000 for the show. Even more came in through tapes. Politics had nothing to do with that night. It was about kindness and caring for others. People in the Soviet Union felt like they were seen. Denver proved that a single guitar player could make a big difference. He took his songs to China in 1992. The Chinese were interested in him after years of being alone. People were already singing songs like Country Roads in parks and schools. He was asked to visit several places by the Chinese government. They even agreed to show more than 2 billion people one of his events. Some people said the show should take place in the Forbidden City or the Temple of Heaven. Young Chinese people greeted him like he was a hero. Deng Xiaoping and other leaders had seen Denver years before he went to Washington, D.C. That visit was very important. At the time, Denver's tour made him one of China's favorite Western artists. Denver became more interested in helping other people as his work went on. In the 1990s, he put out a CD called Homegrown that had all of his biggest hits. The money was all used to help people who were poor. He also helped start the World Hunger Project around this time. He won the Presidential World Without Hunger Award for that group. Denver also worked for environmental causes. His ideas led to the start of the WinStar Foundation and Plant It 2000 to plant new woods. His charity work grew to be as important to him as his music. But Denver had a lot of pain in his personal life. It was all a dream when he got married to Annie Martell. They took in 2 kids together. He even wrote Annie's song in just 10 minutes for her. But as his fame grew, so did their problems. A lot of the time, Annie got lost in his shade. They chose to split up in the early 1980s. After that, there was chaos. Denver was very angry in private, even though he was very calm in public. News reports said he got angry and couldn't be trusted. It was very bad when they split up in 1982. Denver lost it one day after Annie cut down some of his favorite oak trees at their home in Aspen. He brought a hatchet with him. He didn't yell. Instead, he cut their furniture into bits. He even split their bed in 2. In a dark way, it meant that the marriage had ended. Friends and people who saw it couldn't believe it was the same soft voice they knew. Annie was the one who asked for a divorce in 1982. The papers showed a pattern of abuse that hurt Denver's reputation for being a clean city. Her friends believed what she said. His bad attitude was talked about by even his old boss. Annie stayed out of the public eye after they split up, but the damage had already been done. A lot of people who liked Denver changed their minds about him. In 1985, John Denver met Cassandra Delaney for the first time at a home in Seabull, Sydney. He was drawn to her right away when she was singing in the hotel bar. They fell in love quickly. In August 1988, they got married in a big way on top of a mountain above Aspen. With close family and friends around, the scene was beautiful. A lot of people thought it was a fairy tale, but there were holes in it from the start. Later, Cassandra said that being with a famous man put a lot of pressure on her. John had been around longer. His fame followed him around, and he had crazy mood swings. On the outside, everything looked great, but things were tense behind closed doors. Their daughter Jessie was born in May 1989. John always thought he couldn't have children because of a sickness he had as a child. The baby's birth was a surprise and a wonder. People believed John for years that he couldn't have children, so when Jessie was born, stories spread. Some people thought they might have used IVF. After Jessie was born, John became more protective. He seemed angrier and less interested in Cassandra. The weak balance between them started to fall apart. In 1996, Cassandra talked to Australian Women's Weekly and told them a very bad story. She said John didn't have any real friends. The staff was scared of him. They would cry and quit their jobs. Most people thought he was nice, but that was just a show. When he wasn't on stage, he was often angry, unreliable, and mean to the people who close to him. She talked about years of mental pain. John drank a lot, hit her, and tried to decide everything about her life. To try to change him, she kept quiet for a long time. But nothing worked. There was too much stress. They split up in 1991, and by 1993, they were divorced for good. The court case was very rough. Cassandra was sued by John for $3.3 million because he said she lied to him. Cassandra fought to have Jesse taken away from her. In his book, John said that she had made fun of him across the valley. They were both hurt and angry after the war. John was never the same after that. His book, Take Me Home, came out in 1994. It broke his picture of being clean. He said he had long-term problems with cocaine, LSD, and weed. The things he said shocked his fans. His fans had always thought of him as a kind singer who loved nature. They now knew about the bad parts of his life. He wrote, too, about cheating on his women. Even in his first marriage to Annie Martell, the one that gave Annie her song, he had many affairs. He told people that he had been rougher than he should have been, and talked about how his violent outbursts ended his second marriage as well. He cut their bed in half with a hatchet in one story that stood out. John Denver used to be one of the most popular singer-songwriters in the United States. He topped the charts and gained millions of fans with his soft voice, honest words, and acoustic sound in the 1970s. RCA Records signed him and put out 25 albums, 13 gold and 8 platinum albums. His greatest hits album was RCA's best-selling album of all time. Things started to change in the middle of the 1980s, though. In the 1980s, computers and drum machines were the new thing. Pop music from MTV was playing everywhere. His folk country style didn't fit in. Once RCA was sold to General Electric in 1986, the company made the choice to cut costs and focus on more modern acts. Even though he had an experience with RCA and had been successful there before, they dropped him. I was shocked in Denver. His last record for them was called One World, and he was sure that he would get a new deal. RCA chose to make more money in other places. He said they had forgotten about him because he had made them so much money for so many years. It was the only way for him to release his next records, since he had no other choice. As harsh as it was, it showed that even a celebrity can fall behind when tastes and goals shift. Denver was also having other problems at the same time. He really loved flying and did it all the time. He flew more than 2,700 hours over the years and got ratings for gliders, single and multi-engine planes, and even Learjets. But his problems at home started to get to him. Denver was caught for driving while drunk not once, but twice in the 1990s. The FAA got wind of it because pilots need to show a legal medical certificate to show they're healthy enough to fly. They didn't accept his medical license after his second DUI arrest. His pilot's license wouldn't help him without it. He never showed that he no longer had a drinking problem, which is what he would have had to do to get it back. He used to love flying the most, but now even that was taken away from him. What was even worse was how he responded to the FAA's orders when they sent him certified letters telling him to give up his medical license. He didn't bother to read them or sent them back without opening them. This went on for months, and Denver kept flying even though he wasn't physically fit to do so. He stayed out of trouble with the law by refusing to accept the letters. Before the FAA could cancel his flight, he had to agree to their warning. It stands to reason that he could keep flying. It wasn't because he was fit, though. It was because of a hole in the system that needed his help. In March 1997, that hole was finally closed. Denver signed for one of the FAA's official letters, which meant they could stop him for good. After that, every trip was against the law. To get his standing back, he would have to show that he was sober and meet all the requirements that he had been ignoring for years. This is what Denver chose not to do, but none of that stopped him from flying. He took his brand-new Long-Easy experimental plane out for practice takeoffs and landings near Monterey, California, on October 12, 1997. It was a small plane that had been changed a lot. Denver had only owned the plane for one day, and had only flown it with a Czech pilot for 30 minutes before taking off on his own. It was hard to fly because the plane had so many changes made to it. He had to twist in his seat and reach behind his left shoulder to reach the fuel control valve, which was moved 45 inches back. It was stiff and tough to turn. Even pliers were needed to move it right. He couldn't read the fuel gauges because they were behind him, and he couldn't turn around to use a hand mirror. It wasn't clear from the gauges what was left in the tank even at that point. They only gave him rough, non-linear figures. The 26-gallon tank had less than 5 gallons left when it said it was 1/4 full. In the morning, Denver practiced takeoffs and landings at Monterey Peninsula Airport and used up all the fuel in the left tank. People who were there heard the engine sputter and then quiet down as the fuel ran out. Denver turned around and switched to the other tank. To do that, he had to reach behind him and turn the switch with pliers while being blind. During this, he pushed the right rudder pedal by mistake. It didn't take long for the long EZ to nosedive and fall into the Pacific Ocean. Denver was killed right away. In the end, the National Transportation Safety Board found that Denver had too little fuel to begin with, about 3 gallons in one tank and 6 in the other, and that he wasn't familiar with the plane, which was a big factor. Also, they said that the dangerous changes to the design made it almost impossible to change fuels while the plane was in the air. His experience as a pilot wasn't enough to ready him for what this plane would ask of him. It was easy to understand the NTSB report. There was a way to stop this crash. The accident would never have happened if Denver had refueled, trained better, or had a fuel system that was easier to handle. His last flight taught us in a sad way how small mistakes and bad choices can add up to a terrible end.